Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming through. I hope we're going to enjoy the honor. Let me just see. Yeah.
Whilst it's coming up, who is number 3? Who is number 3? If we don't have a name, we won't be able to confirm that you were here. So it will be difficult for us. Number 3, please put your name.
Okay, so before we can start, just remember, if you are 2 or 3 in one device, just remember to put that in a chat room so that we don't miss out on anybody. And these things. And okay, so before we start again, as you'll be listening to the honor, just know that as I go along, I'll also be kind of like briefing you on what your test will be entailing. So just pay attention. Yeah, so the honor is virus, as already mentioned. And as an introduction, so whatever we're going to learn about, just remember these scriptures that we'll be going through. The first one, of course, is Genesis 1 verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Always bear that in mind. So as we go through the honor, there might be somewhere whereby you might be feeling, oh no, so now what? But just come back and remember these scriptures. And of course, the second one, it says, that's First Timothy 4 verse 8, which says, for bodily exercise profiteth little, but godliness is profitable unto all things, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come. So basically, this one just tells us that yes, it is very important that we need to exercise, we need to take good care of our bodies, but moreover, on top of that, we need to make sure that we have our lives rooted in Christ, because the benefit that comes with that, good exercise will benefit you while you are on this earth, on like while you're living here. But now the godliness is something that will take you even to the life that is above the one that we know now, which is eternity. Romans 12 verse 1. This is very much a popular scripture. We know it, Pathfinders. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. So that's all. That is that which you need to do. You just make sure that your body does not belong to you. You need to give it unto God. You, whatever it is that you think of doing in unto your body, and I think, guys, you know about this. You've got this also in your Pathfinder law. You know that you need to take care of your body. And First Corinthians, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own? 20, for you were bought at a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. They all belong to God. We've already touched on that. I'm always trying to make sure that my presentations don't go more than 45 minutes. So yeah. But if you feel I'm being too fast, you can just slow me down, because I won't be able to see you now. Yeah, I won't be able to see you because I'm in a presenter mode, but you can just, I'm sure Director Arthur will let me know if someone needs to say something. And First Corinthians 3, 16 to 17, and also Mr. Mpereki, they will notify me, and Councillor Magaba. Do you not know that you are the temple of God and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? If anyone defiles the temple of God, God will destroy him. For the temple of God is holy. Which temple are you? Which temple you are? So let us at all time remember that we belong to God and we need not to defile our bodies, because it's through that we find ourselves now having to deal with issues that could have been avoided had we been obedient. So for us to qualify for this honor, this is what is expected of us. These are the requirements. So I'm going to share this document with you, and at the end of it all, so I don't need to go through this, but for you to get that badge of the honor, you must have gone through all of this, of which we are gonna cover all of them today. I mean, most of them, enough to qualify you for an honor. So those are all the requirements. There are about 6 in total, and your test will be coming out of these requirements. The first one, what does the word virus mean? So a virus is that small infectious agent that replicates only inside the living cell of other organisms. So organisms is any living thing. It could be a human being, it could be a plant, it could be an animal. So viruses can infect all type of life forms, from animals and plants to microorganisms, including bacteria and archaea. So the study of viruses is known as virology, a subspecialty of microbiology. Um, and a certain Russian botanist by the name of Dmitry Ivanovsky was the first person to discover viruses way back in 1892. And they're saying that there are about 5,000 virus species which have been described in detail, although there are millions of different types. So viruses are found in almost every ecosystem on Earth and are the most abundant type of biological entity. So far, hence you see now and then we hear about other viruses coming through, and they can never really track them down to say that, okay, now we are done with viruses. We understand all of them. We know how to stop them from doing any more harm. So far, only about 5,000 can be described, but there are more than that, and they keep cropping and cropping. And explain the controversy regarding whether it is alive or not. Is a virus alive or not? So viruses are considered by some to be a life form because they carry genetic material and they can reproduce and evolve through natural selections. However, they lack key characteristics such as cell structure that are generally considered necessary to count as life. Because they possess some but not all such qualities, viruses have been described as organisms at the edge of life. So most biologists say that they are not alive. So, because viruses are not made out of cells, they can't keep themselves in a stable state, they don't grow, and they can't make their own energy. So, even though they definitely replicate and adapt to their environment, viruses are more like androids than real living organisms. So, they depend on something else to be able to live. And next one, name the distinctive characteristics of viruses and why they are not included in any kingdom of the living. So while not inside an infected cell, so I think I've mentioned that they can only be something when they have entered a living something. So while not inside an infected cell or in the process of infecting a cell, viruses exist in the form of an independent particles known as virions that are inert and lifeless as a rock. So a virus outside of any living thing, it's just like a rock. They are not alive. So since they are not alive and do not have cells, they are not classified in any of the 5 life kingdoms, which you get the protista, mostly waterborne and single-celled, or the fungi, or the plantae, which are like mainly in the plants, or the animals, and the monera. So instead, these variants consist of 2 or 3 parts. The first one being the genetic material made from either a DNA or an RNA. So it's like long molecules that carry genetic information. A protein coat called the capsid, which surrounds and protects the genetic material. So I think the virus is, as much as they like lifeless like a rock, however, they've got some in structure. They're not like as hard as a rock. So because they've got like those protein coating, and in some cases an envelope of lipids that surrounds the protein coat when they are outside a cell. Let me just close that. When they are outside a cell. Okay, moving forward. Okay. So as a continuation of whether they are living or non-living. So for something to be living, it must have a nucleic acid, either a DNA or an RNA, or have a protein code, or they can either replicate. Okay. And if they are not living, they are non-cellular, cannot reproduce by themselves, and do not have cell organelles, and have only one type of nucleic acid, and do not feed or respire. So yeah. So moving forward. So this is how that virus structure more or less look like. It will have like all those things, the envelope, the nucleus. So this inside here is either that DNA or RNA, and they'll have the envelope, and they'll have that glycoprotein, the one that is like covering this up. So the envelope, so is a double lipid layer holding the cell's genetic material. And the glycoprotein, this serves 2 purposes. They anchor the virus to the host cell, and they transport genetic material from the virus to the host cell. And the nuclei, this science words, acid, so that I said it's either in a DNA form or an RNA material, but virus cells rarely contains both. Most viral cells contains like an RNA material. So most virus species have variants that are too small to be seen with an optical microscope. So they are very small. Hence, nowadays, I'm sure if you can think of the virus that is currently going around, or even just the flu virus, like you don't even see it when it gets to you. You just find yourself now having flu, but as to when did it get to you, or did you even see it somewhere whereby you could have been able to avoid it? So they are way too small to be seen. And the next question, name some. I've got, this is hiding me. Just wanna. Okay. So name some I just want to get this some in another form, because there are some stuff that are hiding my presentation. Just give me 1 second. I just want to open it elsewhere. The honor we okay, yes. So name some morphological shapes of viruses and give an example of each. So these are some of the shapes of the viruses. So obviously there's quite a lot of those, but these are just some few that I'm showing. So an HIV one looks like that, hepatitis B looks like that, Ebola virus looks like that, adenovirus looks like that, the influenza one and the bacteriophage looks like that. So you get a whole lot more of those. But yeah, so those are just some examples that I've given of each. The next one, explain the importance of vaccine to combat viruses and how do they work. So vaccine, we know now with the current virus, that is the reason we are now having our classes in this format, is because of the one virus that is currently keeping us indoors. So so antibiotics do not work on viruses, which leaves now the vaccine, as the main defense against harmful viruses causing which cause diseases. So vaccines help develop immunity by imitating an infection. So what a vaccine does when it gets to your body, it goes in there. So if they know that now they want to prevent malaria, as an example, they will create oh no, maybe I'm okay, let me say they want to prevent polio. So what they will do, they will create a virus. The vaccine will have similar characteristics with that of the polio virus. So when it gets into your body, instead of harming you, it it kind of like it helps your system to be in a position to defend itself. So this type of like vaccine helps develop immunity by imitating an infection. So they will imitate the this virus. So now your body now learn to fight that particular type of a virus. So someday, if you happen to be infected with that particular virus, already your system knows how to fight that type of a virus, and that's the only way that you can actually be saved. Because the virus, the reason why antibiotics will not work on the virus is because the virus goes right inside your bloodstreams. That's where they live. So it's not like they are out there whereby the antibiotics will know it. Yeah. I think people that are in the health system, they will even understand it better. So like I was saying, vaccines help develop immunity by imitating an infection. This type of infection, however, does not cause illness, but it does cause the immune system to produce T lymphocytes and antibodies. So sometimes after getting a vaccine, the imitation infection can cause minor symptoms like such as a fever, but such minor symptoms are normal and should be expected as the body builds immunity. Once the imitation infection goes away, the body is left with a supply of memory of those as well, like that will remember how to fight that disease in the future. However, it typically takes a few weeks for the body to produce those T lymphocytes and the B lymphocytes after vaccination. Therefore, it is possible that a person who was infected with a disease just before or just after vaccination could develop like symptoms and get a disease because the vaccine would have not yet, um, would have not had enough time to produce the protection. Next, describe how viruses reproduce and how the genetic modifications called mutations occur and viral resistance. So any study of virus mutation quickly leads to the idea of virus evolution, okay? Viruses do in fact mutate and assume new forms. Some viruses mutate within weeks or months, including the ever-changing flu viruses. Does this provide the theory of evolution? So, um, however, most Seventh-day Adventists rejects this style of microevolution theory that says all life evolves from single-celled organism with good reason. Because the Bible says that God made the heavens and the earth. However, a well-read Adventist realized that the microevolution is is true and is common. So it's believed that human and natural causes are responsible for the obvious diversity within and between closely related individual species. So microevolution caused the visual differences between the human races, between different type of dogs, between many related types of like viruses. So so now coming back to this of the mutation, like, so a virus, when it gets to your body, it it can change itself into something else, which is why in most cases you find out that in the system, um, you find out that they've got different kind of uh, drugs, like the medication that they will use for flu. Say if you were attacked by flu this year and you used a certain medication, next year you get flu again. Sometimes that medication would not work because it would mean that now there's a different kind of a flu virus that now has attacked you, or it was the same virus but it has changed itself into a completely different virus. Hence, now the initial medication is now no longer able to cure the flu. Um, moving forward, have viral diseases ever been eradicated? And why is it difficult to treat patients with viral diseases? So an eradication is the reduction of an infectious disease prevalence in the global host population to zero. So it differs from elimination, which means reducing the disease to zero cases in a regional population. So basically, the eradication is when you get rid of it at the source, like globally, you make sure that you no longer get to come up with that. But whereas an elimination is that it might still be happening in Africa and only being eliminated in Europe. I'm just making an example. So eradication is not easy to accomplish, and many considerations like they do go into selecting diseases to attempt like the eradication, because it's not very easy to do that. There has, however, been a success case. So two viral diseases, the smallpox and the rinderpest, have been eradicated so far as one is close to eradication. So also regional efforts are being made to eradicate viral human diseases like measles and rubella. Some scientists, however, believe that ovine rinderpest affecting goats and sheep can be eradicated. Remember, I did mention that the viruses do affect plants, affect animals, they affect humans as well. So apparently smallpox, which was caused by the infection with variola virus, the English physician by the name of Edward Jenner discovered the first vaccine, cowpox, to protect human from smallpox in 1798, so making it like the first vaccine ever. But ultimately, so at that time they were able to eradicate smallpox at that time, but ultimately worldwide vaccinations combined with an isolate and containment strategy were successful in eradicating smallpox. But now someone in Somalia by the name of Ali Malin kind of like brought back the infection of smallpox, like from in 1977. So it kind of like came back. So as much as there was a success story way back, but it kind of like came back, the smallpox in 1977. And the reason for failure is that efforts to eradicate like yellow fever have failed, and virus eradication programs have mostly relied upon vaccination, like especially in Africa, where the programs have largely been unsuccessful because they were unable to break the sylvatic cycle involving wild primates. So this I think you've heard of this now with the coronavirus, to say that it's best that you remain in the house, because the more you meet in groups and stuff like that, so the cycle of infection continues. So yeah. And with few countries establishing regular vaccination programs, measures to fight yellow fever have been neglected, making the future spread of the virus more likely. So there was a time when they probably, as you can see, that they attempt to eradicate yellow fever, but they were unsuccessful. So it could come back. I just have not do a research to check if it's in the system now as we speak, but it's something that is out there. You cannot say that there was once a yellow fever, therefore it's never going to come back. It's possibly out there. The virus is possibly out there. Difficulty of treatment. Viruses cause familiar infectious diseases such as the common cold, flu, and warts. They also cause severe illnesses such as HIV, AIDS, smallpox, hemorrhage fevers. And also viruses are like hijackers. They invade living normal cells and use those cells to multiply and produce other viruses like themselves. So this eventually kills the cells, which can make you sick. So viral infections are hard to treat because viruses live inside your body's cells and are basically protected from medicine, which usually move through your bloodstreams. So like I think I said earlier, that your your viruses, like they become part of, kind of like part of your system. So even if you take medication will not actually be able to get rid of it. And I think an example we see it now with people that are living with HIV and AIDS, this the virus will remain in their system. Like even though they will be taking medication, obviously, to make sure that they don't get sick, they don't yeah, to make sure that they continue to live, like to lead a normal life. But however, that does not mean that now the virus is no longer in their system. So antibiotics do not work for viral infections. I think I mentioned that earlier, which is why you are wasting your time fighting a common cold flu with antibiotics. However, there are a few antiviral medicine available today. The most effective weapon against most viruses is vaccines to prevent infection in the first place. I think when I get to this one, just remember those scriptures that I shared with you beginning of when I started with the presentation, and I said somewhere down the line, you just need to apply them. Yes, this does tell us that vaccines are the most effective, to prevent the viruses. But just remember that your body is the temple of God. Like just have that scripture at the back of your mind. The next question that you're expected to cover in this honor is that through pictures, a video, or detailed description, explain the difference in the following exanthematous or rash diseases. So so this one, I'm telling you, this is part of your test. So I'm telling you, this is part of your test. So you will be expected to explain. Can use the pictures, you can use a video, you can just put detailed descriptions of the difference between the rubella, the measles, or the chickenpox. So this word exanthematias, so is a Greek word which simply means skin disorder caused by a rash. So the difference is that one is caused by a viral infection and the other is not. For an example, people with eczema, and eczema is one of those things that are not caused by a viral infection, and it is not even contagious. So if you see someone with an eczema, don't think that you'll be infected by that, because that is not like your chicken pox or your measles or your rubella, even though all of them, they look like a rash type of a thing. But the difference is that the other ones are mainly contagious, whereas the other ones like eczema is not contagious. Okay, like I said, this is part of your test, so you'll be expected to do this. So just for us to cover today, I just looked at some few pointers as to how you can go about this. There could be another way. So I think in this case, I used a mixture of pictures and some detailed description. Okay. So as you can see, I've used some pictures with some description on the rubella, the measles, and the chickenpox. So obviously, I'm we're looking at the difference between the three of them, and I looked at their symptoms. How can you differentiate them? By just looking at the symptoms. So as you can see that the other one, you get a mild fever, that's a rubella. However, measles and chickenpox is like you get like a serious fever, and you get a headache, and you get a headache also in on chickenpox. The other one, you get a red eye as well. So those are some of the differentiation that you can pick up just on the symptoms. So this is just the one way of answering that test. And moving forward, like you also look at how contagious are this. If you look, rubella is contagious, measles as well, chickenpox as well. So that's another comparison that you can do on the two. And the other one, you can look at the treatment or the prevention of the two. And I think with most of them, they really talking about vaccine being just the only prevention to this disease, to this type of a virus. Yes, to this type of a virus. Yes, I said I wanted to make sure that we finish within time. So this will be shared, and obviously because this is going to be part of your test, so you might be wanting to deal with it differently, but this is more or less the way in which you can go about it. You can actually even put it in a word format whereby you're explaining you just differentiating the three. And the other question that you're expected to complete to end this honor is choose 3 of the following viral diseases and describe their form of infection, symptoms, and prevention. Demonstrate your learning creatively through a display, presentation, or a prepared speech. So this one as well, I am telling you, it is part of your test. So you'll be expected to choose the 3 between the cholera and the herpes, the AIDS, the mumps, the polio, the meningitis, hepatitis, and the dengue. So you choose 3 of those, and you tell us, like you give a presentation on how does a person get infected of it, what are the symptoms, how do you prevent it. So it's up to you. You can do a presentation, or you can prepare a speech. So you can do a speech, record yourself saying a speech, say for 3 minutes, just, talking about the three that you would have chosen. So just as an example today that to share with you, I have chosen the moms that I'm going to share with you. So in my case, I'll be displaying them in a form of a presentation. So mumps is a contagious disease that is caused by the mumps virus. Okay. Anyone who is not immune from either previous mumps infection or from vaccination can get mumps. Sometimes they are called the epidemic parotitis. Okay. So mumps typically starts with a few days of fever, headache, aches and tiredness and loss of appetite, and is followed by a painful swelling of salivary glands. So as you can see that they're showing a person that the where the glands, where the part whereby mostly the person with mumps, the symptoms will be showing. And the transmission. So mumps is a contagious disease that is spread from person to person through contact with respiratory secretions such as saliva from an infected person. So when an infected person coughs or sneezes, the droplets aerosolize and can enter the eyes, the nose, or mouth of another person. So mumps can also be spread by sharing food and drinks. So what are the symptoms? So an estimated 20% to 30% of cases are asymptomatic. So they don't show any symptoms. But and then the other symptoms is that you get the face become painful, you get a fever, you get a headache, you get a sore throat, you get a swelling of the parotid glands, the largest salivary gland. So as you can see on the picture of this child, this side is where actually the mumps are now, the symptoms are now beginning to show. And obviously the swelling of the temples of the jaw, as you can see on this child, the jaws are swelling. Then you can tell that this person is got the was been infected with the mumps virus. What is the treatment? So there is no specific treatment for mumps. Ice or heat packs applied to the neck area, and acetaminophen may help relieve the pain. So do not give aspirin to children with a viral illness because of the risk of Reye syndrome. Okay. Um, just checking the time. Make sure I'm still within. Um, so the Reye syndrome, it's a rare but serious condition that causes confusion, the swelling in the brain, and the liver damage. So parents, as you've had aspirin to children that have got the viral illness, it's a big no-no because it exposed them to the risk of that Reye syndrome. Okay, still within. Moving forward. And we can also relieve the symptoms with extra fluids, soft foods, warm salt water gargle. So if someone has got that, you just make sure that they drink a lot of water, juices, warm soup that are like very liquid soups, and soft food, warm salt water, so they can gargle with warm salt water. And I mean, now as I'm looking on all this kind of like relieving of the symptoms, it sounds very much similar in most viral infections, including the latest one that we currently have in around the world, being the coronavirus. The prevention, so the MMR immunization, which is a vaccine, protects against measles, the mumps, and the rubella. So sound like this type of of immunization of this vaccine can actually protect people from all the three together. It should be given to children 12 to 15 months old. So the vaccine is given again between ages of 4 to 6 or between the ages of 11 to 12 if it wasn't given before. So that's the prevention of that. And I'm thinking probably most of us, it's possible that we were given that vaccine when we were younger, because I know that our parents will be taking us to the clinic. I'm sure the mothers will know that we're taking the child to the clinic for a vaccine. I'm sure your parents were told what vaccine is that. It was probably for the prevention of this. And the composition of this mumps vaccine, it's got the live virus in them, the efficacy, and the duration. So basically, if you've had that vaccine, it will protect you for as long as you shall live. So as they said, the schedule, you get it in 2 doses, and we've seen that you get the first one when you are between 12 and 15 months, and then you get the second one either when you are between 4 or 6 or when you are between 11 and 12. But yeah, you get it twice and it covers you for a lifetime. Moving forward, oh yes, so explain the difference between cold and the flu, and why does the influenza virus cause periodic epidemics, so such as the Spanish flu and the N1, the H1N1, etc. So a cold. So they're saying the flu and the common cold are both respiratory illnesses, but they are caused by different viruses. Okay. Because these two types of illnesses have similar flu-like symptoms, it can be difficult to tell the difference between them based on symptoms alone. So they need to run a special test to tell whether is it just cold or do you actually have flu. So the flu in general is worse than the common flu, like is worse than the common cold. And symptoms such as a fever, a body ache, the extreme tiredness, and dry cough are more common and intense. So colds are usually milder, like the flu. So people with colds are more likely to have a runny or a stuffy nose, and that will be it. So colds generally do not result in serious health problems such as pneumonia or bacterial infections or hospitalization. However, the flu continued to mutate. Remember, we said that the flu earlier on, we mentioned that because that virus keeps on changing itself into something else and continue to replicating itself, so creating hundreds of strains a year. In a year, one flu can turn itself into so many different kind of flus. Yes. So therefore, vaccines need to be developed with educated guesses. Guesses. Yeah. And this is the work of the so-called experts in the field, and they're saying it's guesses. So just bear that in mind. Go back to those scriptures that we started off with, that we belong to God. So we need to just really, if they are gonna come up like they're guessing, meaning that whatever the vaccine that they do, it stems from there. So sometimes the guess is wrong, or a new dangerous strain gets out of control. So they don't ever get hold of it. They don't ever get it right. So which is why we just need to ask, let's remember who we belong to, and we belong to God. And what is the difference between a virus and a prion? And name a disease caused by a prion. So the word prion, named in 1982 by Stanley, is short for proteinaceous infectious particle. And the word is derived from the words protein and infection. So while viruses and all other known infectious agents, including bacteria, fungi, and parasites, universally contain DNA or RNA, prions contains neither. Instead, they are a protein that can fold in multiple structurally distinct ways, at least one of which is self-propagating and transmissible to other prion protein. This form of replication leads to disease that is similar to viral infection. So the first prion protein discovered in mammals is the major prion protein. So this infectious agent causes mammalian transmissible spongiform encephalopathies, including bovine. I think bovine is something like it's a beef type of a, yeah, it's a cow type of an animal. And it's also known as a mad cow disease. And I'm sure we've all heard of this mad cow disease. And scrappy in sheep. In humans, this causes something called the Jacob disease or the Schenker syndrome or fatal familial insomnia and a kuru. So that's what it does to human beings. All known prion diseases in mammals affect the structure of the brain or other neural tissues, and all are currently untreatable and universally fatal. So prions, we we don't even hear that there is a vaccine for them, so they are just untreatable. Moving forward, the last one. So before that, I think on the requirements for the last one, you are expected to do one of the followings, being you give a brief report about a viral pandemic and the impact it had or is having on the world. Number two, you create a skit, multimedia presentation, or other interactive display. Let's quickly do this. That is like the last one that we're going to look into. Yes. So this is the last requirement. You create a skit, a multimedia. Okay. Yes. So you give a brief report about a viral pandemic and the impact it had or is having in the world, or you create a skit, a multimedia presentation, or other interactive display that informs a third world audience to the danger of one or more of these viruses and gives them training in how to combat or control the virus. Number three, you can either have an AIDS or relief worker give a talk or presentation about epidemics or virus control in third world countries, raise money as a group to support aid relief in the country, and the workers tells you about. So for the purpose of this presentation, I have chosen to go with the first one, so which is where we were at right at the end. So I've decided to go with giving a brief report about a viral pandemic and the impact it had. And I mean, we all know that we're currently going through this pandemic of a COVID-19. So coronavirus disease, known as COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. Like as earlier on, I think I did mention that they are able to like name or know about 5,000 viruses that are out there, but there are actually over millions of viruses that some of them they don't know. So some of them might still be coming back. And so, yes, and most people infected with the COVID-19 virus will experience mild to moderate respiratory illness and recover without requiring special treatment. Other people and those with underlying medical problems like cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, chronic respiratory disease, and cancer are more likely to develop serious illness. The best way to prevent and slow down the transmission is be well informed about the COVID-19 virus, the disease it causes, and how it spreads. Protect yourselves and others from infection by washing your hands. I think we've been talking about this at church, and the health department, they've been coming through and doing the presentations, even the children coming through and doing the presentation. Washing of hands, using an alcohol based to rub frequently and not touching your face. The COVID-19 virus spreads primarily through droplets of saliva or discharge from the nose when an infected person coughs or sneezes. So it's important that you also practice respiratory etiquette. So I mean, we've spoken about this, that when you cough like, in your elbow and all of that. At this time, there is no specific vaccines or treatment for COVID-19. However, there are many ongoing clinical trials evaluating potential treatments. So WHO, which is the World Health Organization, will continue to provide updated information as soon as clinical findings become available. So there is for now rumors about the vaccine that they'll be testing, but as it is, it's not finalized to say that yes, there is a cure for COVID-19. And what has been the impact? Just in brief, we know that it has impacted our economy. So the impact on employment will be worse than we initially expected. And I mean, we know that we've got our family members, our friends, and our loved ones that most companies they closed down, and there has been like some job losses. And developing countries are expected to suffer the most. When you are still growing and now this hit all of us, it becomes a problem because now most things becomes at a standstill, and capital flight from developing countries and unprecedented rates. So I mean, I don't know if those that are probably following the Johannesburg Stock Exchange will realize that the minute this pandemic came into the picture, most shares dropped, and meaning that like especially in South Africa, some investors obviously withdrew their investments because they just don't know what is going to come out of it. And the trade and the manufacturing production was also impacted because I know most of our clothing uh, companies or retailers, they get most of their stock in other countries such as China and the other countries. So because of this, that was highly impacted, because of some trade issues. And also travel and tourism industry. So the World Travel and Tourism Council has warned the COVID-19 pandemic could cut about 50 million jobs worldwide in the travel and tourism industry. Asia is expected to be the worst affected, and I'm sure we all know why. I mean, in this past years, I think most people, when they're thinking of uh, a vacation, they are thinking of the Thailands, mostly the Asian countries, and they were affected the most because now they couldn't get any more people to come through. Once the outbreak is over, it could take up to about 10 months for the industry to recover. And the tourism industry currently accounts to about 10% of the global GDP, gross domestic product. So it's quite an important industry, and it was affected the most. I know even in South Africa, in our local ones, this industry was affected the most, such that I think now those that are able, you just want to go to a restaurant to have a meal, not because you're really hungry for that meal, but you're just thinking of that industry and how they were impacted, and you just want to try to help them get back at their feet. Yeah, that's what people with money are currently doing to try and help some of us that are not there to get back at feet. But yes, that was the other impact. The socio-economic. So the 2019, like this COVID-19 pandemic has impacted crime and illicit economies such as organized crime, terrorism, street crime, online crime, illegal markets, and smuggling, human and wildlife tracking, slavery, trafficking, I mean to say slavery, robberies, and burglaries. And that has been happening. That has been happening now because things are not going well, and people, they just want to make money, they want to make a living, and most of the time they find vulnerable people that would like to make a living, and those that are in the bad business, they make use of the opportunity to explore the vulnerability of other people and make them do things which are not right. And has also impacted religion in various ways, including the cancellation of the worship service of various faiths. And fortunately for us as Table View, I mean, we still continue to meet in this fashion, even though not everybody is able to come and worship with us. But that has been impacted us. But then there are those churches like in the rural areas whereby they don't even, I mean, the network even in the area is not so great. So they can't be meeting as a church anymore. And so that has kind of like impacted the religion structures. And it also affected the political system of multiple countries, causing suspensions of legislative activities, isolation or death of multiple politicians, and rescheduling of elections due to fears of spreading of the virus. I mean, we know about that. And in conclusion, now, just to take this and connect it back to all the scriptures that we looked at the beginning of my presentation. And I think in our church as the Seventh day Adventist, we have explored the 8 laws of health in such an extent. New Start, as it is known, nutrition, we know the health message, us as a church. This, I'm gonna share it with you. I have not seen like a document, like a formal officiated document by the officials, perhaps government officials, or that which probably they might not agree with it. But we know that as we've been listening to some of our health directors in the Seventh day Adventist, I mean, they've been talking about how much when you are on a vegan diet, somehow the coronavirus will not affect your system because it comes from an animal protein. Therefore, it it becomes stronger when it's been backed up by an animal product. So if it gets to your system and there is nothing animal protein in your system, then it just remains useless. It's unable to do anything. So I'm just sharing this with you. There is that out there. So I wouldn't say it was some people, yes, they've proven that. But yeah, so nutrition, we know about the health message that we have in our church. And it is advised that we perhaps think of going the vegetarian, the vegan route. And I think just this past few weeks, we had the health department brought us some quite extensive presentation around nutrition and around veganism, around vegetarian. Exercise, it is important to exercise. Water, you must drink plenty of water, pure water. It's good for you. Sunlight, you need that sunshine D. Just go out there. Yes, the sunshine. Temperance, yes. We know that our bodies are the
Ma'am,
temple of God. Yes,
ma'am, do you think
yes.
that the World Health Organization has asked the people as their best interest, or do you feel like they might try to use this virus as an advantage? As like they, do you feel like they might try to like take advantage of the virus?
Okay, so
All right.
uh,
Kakisho, can
let
you complete your presentation and then we can attend to the questions
two
later?
questions. Yes, yeah. So okay, just pause on that. We're gonna get to it just now. This is the last slide. Say yes. So noted. Yes. So temperance. Now coming to temperance, we know that our bodies are the temple of God. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with eating, but what you eat, that goes a long way. And I think we were taught even in our Pathfinder classes what is good for our bodies, what is good for our systems. Air, fresh air, rest. We need proper rest. We need our 7 to 8 hours of proper sleep every night. And of course, trusting in God, knowing that God, we belong to you. Here is your laws about health. We've been following them. God, you do the rest. And I think if we've got this, and of course, accompanied with the word that come from God Himself, yes, viruses are out there, but God is also there. And God is faithful and always true to His word. And that is me, the end.